Scotiabank, helping customers to become financially better off. Trust us to meet your financial needs. Call 62 Scotia or log on to tt.scotiabank.com today.
Good evening and welcome to the TV6 News at 10. Let's head straight to our top story. The government extends the 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. curfew to more hotspots in North, South and East Trinidad. The Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar made the announcement late this afternoon at a news conference following what she said was a marathon meeting of the National Security Council.
The new areas for curfew are as follows: Carly Bay, Maruga, Cedras, Claxton Bay, Maloney, La Joqueta, Windy Hill, Aruca, Dow Village, California. Did I say Toco already? Toco. McBean, Hoover, and Chase Village, Carapichaima.
So says the curfew is not restricted to land, as it will now also affect maritime boundaries.
We will also have the curfew imposed along the 362 kilometers of our Trinidad and Tobago coastline, and that will extend outland 3 nautical miles. This will also be in effect from tomorrow, the 14th of September 2011.
She's advising people in the affected areas to visit police stations if they need to be out and about during curfew hours. The Police Commissioner, Dwayne Gibbs, gives an assurance that police officers acted within the ambit of the law when they arrested late last month 21 persons on Nelson Street. Those 21 persons were subsequently released yesterday by Magistrate Marcia Ayres Caesar after the Director of Public Prosecutions, Roger Gaspard, said there was insufficient evidence to continue in this matter. The Police Commissioner was speaking this evening at a news conference.
We heard about the 21 people that were released yesterday. Should be well-known fact that they were arrested legally through the intelligence that we had. The evidence that was put forth was not strong enough to take it through the courts. I can assure you that the police service, the justice system, is working very hard to ensure that as we go forward, the people that we've arrested and charged will be taken through to convictions.
The police also showed CCTV footage of gangs operating on Nelson Street. However, the Deputy Commissioner, Mervyn Richardson, said that footage couldn't have been used against those arrested since it was obtained prior to the proclamation of the state of emergency and the anti-gang legislation. Meantime, the Attorney General says persons are too scared to come forward and no matter can go on without a victim. The Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Orville London, says yesterday's release of 21 detainees due to a lack of evidence shows more than ever now that the government needs to come clean with citizens and give the real reason why the state of emergency was imposed.
Quite convincingly, is that measures were introduced without any respect whatsoever or any consideration of the rights of the citizens of this country.
Mr. London said the government is encroaching on the civil liberties of citizens, and this is something that shouldn't be taken lightly.
It's not just that they were picked up and they have to be released, but that they were picked up on grounds that, as far as the evidence is indicating, went against the rule of law. And once the rule of law does not apply, all of us, every single citizen in Trinidad and Tobago is under threat.
As government attempted to justify its decision to target Nelson Street by showing footage of crimes committed in the area, residents of the community are happy that several of their own were released yesterday by the courts. However, there's residual fear that the community may continue to be unjustly targeted, and there's anger as well over levels of police brutality.
The quiet on Nelson Street today belies the deep feelings that run through this community. One day after 21 men who live here were released from prison after the state failed to present evidence to support charges against them, there is some joy on the part of residents as for once they see the law appear to be on their side.
Out about these people and them who they release. I find it was a good thing that people call in and said things about Nelson Street fellas, and it was really surprising that they talk good on the.
But there is also pain, rage, and a level of anxiety as many on Nelson Street say they remain targeted by the authorities, whether the attention is deserved or not, and they are afraid of what may happen next.
Need to stop. Nobody don't come out and take action against it. That is why they walk through the yard and do whatever they choose to do.
Right now people fighting. People fighting this community because you know why said they're locked up and going Guantanamo Bay. High-risk prisoners. You know what?
Atiba Gorkin, who has unintentionally become the face of state of emergency detainees, says the future is now uncertain for him because he is a marked man.
I want to deal with it. I want to try and deal with it, but I know to get work and go wrong on the port or custom going to be hard for me because I done tarnish already.
On the possibility that he and several other members of the group may be rearrested, Gorkin was resigned. But he did ask, why would government persist in action against Nelson Street residents given the results of the last series of cases?
And it's proven through the court, so why don't want to come back with something else again? Are this a scapegoat to hide the bigger fish on them? Or this just a political game? Or they're trying to get rid of the Africans who in the PNM constituency?
Meanwhile, the community continues to hold its breath for 3 other residents still behind bars, who will appear in court on Thursday. Natalie Briggs, TV6 News.
It's a case of either abuse of authority or ignorance of the law. Police officers stopped last night a CCN journalist outside Express House, insisting that his curfew permit was invalid without a vehicle number on it. TV6 News was on hand to witness the confrontation.
This doesn't have the vehicle number. None of them come with vehicle numbers on them. None of them. I'm telling you, none of them come with vehicle numbers on them.
Confrontation outside the gates of the Express House late last night. Police officers of the Interagency Task Force surrounding the car of Express journalist Akil Simon and insisting his curfew permit was not valid. They claimed that his curfew permit needed to contain a vehicle number. The officers even warned Mr. Simon not to leave this area, insisting they would take stringent action against him. The hasty officers before leaving again tried to drill home their point.
You don't have time to ask me. I am not against what you are doing. Really know what job. I'm still telling you. If you have your vehicle number, I am telling you that other permit.
But we took a closer look at the curfew permit. On it was actually the name of the person, the address, and place of employment. There was nothing to suggest that you actually had to have a vehicle number, as police had contended earlier. A senior police officer told TV6 News that the curfew permit is only for individuals and there was no need for vehicle numbers. All civilians are required to do is to provide law enforcement authorities with proper identification that coincides with the permit if they are stopped. He said the behavior of these officers will be looked into. Mark Besant, TV6 News.
Well, we double-checked today with the Deputy Police Commissioner, Stephen Williams. He told us that curfew permits have no relevance to vehicles. Mr. Williams told us that the permits apply to individuals only and made it clear that any police officer who says otherwise is incorrect. It was later being learned that the officers involved in the incident are assigned to the CCTV unit. Charges without evidence, imprisoned without proper food, abuse at the hands of police. The cry of relatives of people rounded up and detained in South Trinidad under the state of emergency. They call for the freedom of their family members.
Frustration outside the Princestown Magistrates Court today as relatives of several men detained in the Southland gathered to hear the cases of their loved ones. But they were disappointed. A man walking towards us, a dry bread in his hands. He says it's the food his brother has been given to eat for the past 3 weeks. This woman, who didn't want to go on camera for fear of victimization, says her son and nephew were beaten and detained on August 26th. She blames the arrest on racism.
Well, we was made to understand that somebody in the area saw my son, because that's an Indian area and my son is a Negro. and they call the police and say he's a gang member in the area. They didn't know who he related to up there because my child not from up here. So it's a kind of race thing.
Ricky Muhammad's brother was also detained. Some of his possessions allegedly stolen.
He had $3,600 in his pockets. When his wife came to the station, they gave her $1,025 and told her that is what they got in him. She just changed $500. His wife came from Canada.
Relatives claim the detainees are being given random charges, some robbery, others drugs, and almost all are being associated with gang-related activity. To add to their frustration, the cases were adjourned until Friday. The reason, they say, a lack of evidence to support police claims.
The man should talk to the police or prosecutor and they must get their act together. Or it have plenty parents here know about this. The Tuesday she told them the same thing, and up to now they cannot get their act together to prove that these children and them is gang members.
The family members who spoke with us said no guns were found on any of their relatives.
They have no evidence. The magistrate now tell them they have no evidence.
Let them go! Run the freedom! Let them go! They need to free these people!
Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
The prisons commissioner, John Roger, has denied that there's any overcrowding at the nation's prisons since a state of emergency was declared. Commissioner Roger was speaking a short while ago at a news conference.
Let me state categorically there is no heavy overcrowding situation within the system. What we have done as far as the added population is concerned is that we are placing some of these people into the maximum security prison. You may recall that the population, the capacity of the maximum security prison is 2,400. At this point in time, the maximum security prison is only roughly about 1,300.
Viewing the TV6 News at 10, more news now.
All right.